Hello, and welcome to the Lenovo Work Reborn podcast, where we explore how technology, AI, and cybersecurity are reshaping the way we work. This segment of our tour, we are back at it again, live in London, interviewing top IT leaders. Each episode, we're going to bring you insights from real leaders and industry experts on how organizations can navigate today's challenges and unlock tomorrow's opportunities. From making sense of complex data, to simplifying IT environments, to delivering real business outcomes, Lenovo is helping businesses of every size reimagine what's possible. Join us as we dive into the future of work. Work Reborn. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Work Reborn podcast. My name is Rita and we're coming to you live from London. We are so excited to be here today. Would you mind introducing yourself to our listeners, who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name's Ricky Arora. I've got a background in a lot of technology roles. I've been through enterprise architecture and I'm currently in security architecture, leading a security architecture team as a director for a large telco kind of across Europe.
Amazing. So, Ricky, we recently have conducted some research. We call it the Work Reborn Report. We interviewed over 600 senior IT leaders about topics like cybersecurity, AI, all of those things. And there's many more topics in there. But really, there were some interesting findings. And there was one that I wanted to chat with you today, if you're ready to get into it.
Sure.
Great. So, according to our report, it was interesting that we found more than half of our respondents felt very confident in their endpoint security capabilities, which is great progress to hear about over this time period of where all this change is happening. But however, areas like detection and identity management show a bit more room for further strengthening. So from your perspective, where do you see the most opportunity to advance capabilities in the security landscape?
So I think you've called out kind of two areas. I mean, security in many ways for professionals like myself and, colleagues around me, it's a bit of an unlucky dip. As the old adage goes, it's like Swiss cheese. The bad guys just need to find one hole and we've got to sit there constantly plugging everyone that's there. Endpoint security, absolutely, it's a hygiene measure. And back to the old kind of, statement, good security hygiene is, the best defense. I think we're still contending with that as a bit of an area of concern. We still find that even if you have endpoint security, do you have it pervasively across every one of your assets? Have you plugged every one of those holes? When you talk about identity and access management, absolutely, it's, the identity is known as the new perimeter with, the changing technology landscape we have, people working remotely, services outside in the cloud, trying to just kind of focus on how we protect things needs a slightly broader look, but it's always, Rita accessing that data. So there are some consistent kind of pieces of that we can focus on, and identity helps us do that. So how are we protecting the identity? How are we making sure Rita is Rita? Can we get very good assurance that Rita is Rita? Because Rita may be coming in, to do her regular daily work. We can see it's Rita logged in, no problem. But is that Rita coming in at 3:00 in the morning from China? Certainly we can start to ask questions. It might be my evil twin,
I don't know.
Absolutely. And you've hit the nail on the head. It's your evil twin.
Right.
It's not the good twin. So look, identity plays a massively important role there. And I think trying to get control of identity management, I wouldn't call it just low-hanging fruit because not all of it is trivial, but there are some parts of it that are basic we could get right. We know when Rita has left the company. If we know that in a HR system and we've stopped paying you, we have enough of a signal there to know that you shouldn't have access to any of the systems you had before. If we've got hundreds of systems, that can get complicated, but if we deal with identity management right, that kind of joiner and leaver process can start to plug those holes. In terms of, I think you said kind of identity
management and the detection.
Detection. Detection's an interesting area. I think certainly we've seen over the last kind of 15 years of cybersecurity, a lot of investment go into how we protect things, which is fine and good. But we also now hear a lot about, it's not just about protecting things, it's about showing resilience. Well, that's tied to us making sure, even though we protect whatever we can, we are also keeping an eye on, detecting when things don't look right. And in that regard, I think we're starting to see this slow shift of security investment be more evenly weighted to detecting things as well as protecting things. But detecting things isn't easy. There's lots of signals, there's lots of noise, and typically, security operations teams are overwhelmed with hundreds, thousands, potentially millions of alerts. Trying to cut through that noise is quite difficult. And detection engineering as a kind of discipline, building ways of detecting things that don't look right, is not trivial and needs quite a dedicated kind of effort, skills, resources, money, time that is never really very straightforward to understand by the people that hold the purse strings. So it's a maturing understanding that organizations need to go through. And I would say it's certainly an area I've seen a lot of pain in my career.
Right. Have you been experimenting, I mean, you don't have to say specifics, but within your own work with automation and detecting threats and stuff of that nature, or predictive IT is what I've been hearing it called?
So absolutely. I mean, I think to deal with those large volumes of data, trying to automate whatever you can, trying to be clever about, ingesting data, making sure that's, parsed and pulled together in a coherent manner, that's fairly repeatable. So you can automate. There is a lot of automation, and increasingly so with AI available to us, that is putting that automation on steroids. But at the same time, the fundamentals of needing people that understand, what to be looking for, how to kind of, engineer detections, how to bring data in a coherent way, how to kind of maybe, automate responses to things that we know how to respond to, as it were. It's a journey. It's not something that happens overnight. So yes, absolutely, it helps. Yes, it paints a lot of opportunity. Am I seeing it pervasively in the way we should? Not as much as I would like to.
Yeah, is it maybe there's just some obstacles to like, really implementing that, especially in an enterprise where there are multiple types of structure and, operations. Like it's not like a one size all fix. I think when people hear AI and IT, like on the surface level, they're like, that's my golden ticket to fixing all of my problems, right? But as a security architecture director, you're probably like, yeah, that couldn't be further from the truth.
So I think a lot of organizations have gone through over the last couple of years that situation where they have a hammer known as AI, and they're running around looking for nails. Unfortunately, you know, you need to kind of lead a little bit more with what you're trying to achieve. Absolutely, AI in many, use cases, many areas of problem, many areas of opportunity can help you significantly. But we've got to focus on the fact that it's a tool to help us. The outcome that we're looking for, we need to be clear on so that we apply the tool appropriately. Look, AI is an amazing development. Particularly Gen AI and the whole explosion of large language models available to accelerate our work. But in the security world, AI, in terms of the more traditional machine learning, has been there for a long time. We've always been dealing with a lot of data. So I think as an industry, we're probably quite well placed to, you know, bring those learnings from what I'll call more historic AI into this kind of newer, more evolving world. And I think we're starting to see the fruits of those labors come to bear in, even some of the vendors building things into their product.
Right.
My personal view is that we should be cautious about what we build versus what vendors are building into their systems, because there's no point building something and then having a vendor version of that come to market later. You end up with a lot of those early AI for security projects now probably kind of being wound down because the suppliers or products they were using have now built some of those capabilities in. So it's always good to have some foresight around what you're trying to do, how long it will take, and if somebody else is around the corner about to bring something out that could fill that same gap.
Fantastic. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation with you, Ricky. Thank you for giving us your insight. I'm sure those listening will find that valuable as well. If anybody is interested in learning more about the findings from our Work Reborn research report, make sure you scan the QR code somewhere on the screen over here. Or if you're listening to the podcast, download it via the link in the show description below. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Lenovo Work Reborn podcast. To learn more about how Lenovo is helping organizations transform with AI, cybersecurity, and smarter IT solutions, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next conversation. And also, we'd love to hear from you. Make sure to leave a comment with any other questions that you would like us to discuss on our next episodes. See you next time.
Lenovo.